to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the HR Insights Hour, presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
Hello, greetings. This is Nina Woodard. I'm past president of San Diego Society for Human Resource Management, and it's my pleasure today to have on the show with me Miss Sharὸn Lynn Wyeth. And Sharón was introduced to me by Wade, and we've only met virtually, so this is going to be an interesting conversation. Sharón, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you, Nina?
Very good, thank you. Where are you? Are you anywhere near San Diego, or are you outside the state?
I'm currently in a traveling thing with my book, and so I'm currently in San Antonio, leaving tomorrow for Tennessee, and then continuing around different places. I won't be home until the end of October.
Well, let me thank you very much for taking time out of that very, very busy schedule to spend some time with us today. And one of the things that Sharón and I are going to address this afternoon in our conversation is something that's designed to help HR professionals be able to overcome one of their major difficulties, which is making sure we get the right people in the right place at the right time. And Sharón has a tool that's available, and I saw on your website, Sharón, that you've worked with HR people in this space before, and you understand how important it is to make sure we hire the right people. From your perspective...
Well, when HR hires the right people, they become the heroes of their whole company.
That's exactly right. And we have to be thinking about how we're hiring people not only to do the job they're in today, but also to be with us as things transition and as we create a sustainable future for our organization and transition to what's next for us and for the company as well. So that takes special skill sets and special identification of people. What are some of the things that you've seen in your work that you can do that assist people in hiring the right people?
Well, what different companies do, and I have been tested around the globe on this, is that they send me a list of the job description and a list of the candidates that have applied. And I go through and say, don't even bother interviewing these. These are your top one and your top two. And if these other guys are in-house, this is what they're missing to be able to do that job so that somebody can teach them and show them so that they can move in for later. And I've been doing this now for HR companies for the last 5 years. And in that 5-year time period, I've only had 2 people that I've recommended for them to hire that's quit or that has left or had to be fired or whatever, that are no longer with them. So my track record is very high.
It sounds like you have a really solid history of success using your created you call it Neimology?
It's Neimology Science, and it's the study of the placement of the letters in the name. And it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's totally based on patterns and patterns within names. And it's comparable to the Myers-Briggs. The only difference is, or there's a lot of differences, but the main difference is the Myers-Briggs, somebody's evaluating themselves. And in this, it's totally objective, so nothing gets hidden.
So do you use someone's whole entire name? Like, would you use Sharὸn Lynn Wyeth?
Yes, you use the full name because the first name is the essence of who the person is. The middle name, if they have one, is how they change or how they morph when they're under stress and how they're going to act when they're under stress. And the last name is their environment. So you literally drop the first name into the last name to see who they really are and how they're going to behave and how they're going to respond.
How did you become familiar, or what led you to create this science, this Neimology Science?
It was in my 7th year of teaching, and I started making the seating charts, and I realized that I was thinking, don't let Joshua be next to Julie. Together they're going to be clowns, but separated okay. Stephanie's going to be stubborn, put her over here. Derek's going to need extra help, put him up front. And I realized as I was doing the seating chart for my 4th class that I didn't know these kids yet. That this is exactly what my brain does once I know the kids. And so I got really curious, and I said, I'm going to go back and put down my impression of all 150 children I'm going to be teaching this year. And all I had to go on was their name. So I wrote it down, and I put it away until winter break. I wanted to get to know the kids for who they were. When I looked at my notes at winter break, I was astonished at how accurate it was. So I thought, okay, my brain's picked up some kind of a pattern. Now, it's thoroughly trained in pattern making because I majored in math in college and then I have my master's. And so I said, okay, how do I make what my brain is doing subconsciously or unconsciously conscious? And that took 15 years of figuring out all the patterns in a name. And then I was invited to go speak in over 70 countries on names. And so I got to try it. And I kept thinking, somebody's going to tell me if I'm really off. And I was invited in 49 of our states. So for 3 years, that's what I did. And we tested it everywhere to make sure it's accurate. And then I came back and wrote the book. And so all of that was done. I wrote the book in 2006. So since then, I've been doing this for companies and I do this for lawyers. How to present a case to the judge, how the client's going to know what they're going on. I have HR companies that they don't hire without talking to me first if it's an important position. And then I do it for individuals on how to get along better with other people in their lives.
Well, since we're kind of dubbed with a name by people that are meeting us for the first time and we take our first breath, how can the work that our parents do on our behalf at our birth have such a profound impact on who we actually are?
Well, there's two different reasons for that. One is a religious reason, and the majority of religions a long time ago, before they all kind of multiplied and divided and everybody, I jokingly say, made up their own. When there was just a handful of religions, they agreed on 10 different things. And one of the things they agreed upon was that the incoming soul impresses upon the one naming them what they want to be called. And so they believed that we name ourselves. Okay? Then there's a science called cymatics, and it's cymatics. And that science says that literally our DNA is influenced by sounds. And they've done studies with music and different sounds to see how the DNA reacts. And what is the sound that we identify with the most? That's the sound of our name. Because when somebody says our name, we turn. We know that's us. We're identifying with it. And if somebody says, who are you? Or, hi, I'm this person, who are you? We answer with our name as if that says it all. And it really does once you know how to interpret Neimology Science.
How very interesting. Are you still teaching it all?
This past school year was my 40th year. And so the answer is no. This is my first year that I'm not. After that 3-year break that I took to test this, I went back. And so, nope, now I'm out. But I did all the way through last year.
Well, thank you so much for your time in the classroom, too. I'm sure the students benefited from your knowledge. What subjects did you teach?
Math.
Ah.
When I started teaching, I taught art and U.S. history and drafting and journalism and the swim team and the yearbook. And occasionally they give me a math class. And because I was hired as the catch-all teacher. But starting my 4th year of teaching, I got really smart and I took all my qualifications off my teaching credential except for math.
Uh-huh. And then you got to teach what you wanted to teach.
I'm good at it. We all should be doing what we're good at.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about how someone would engage you with a job description. So they send you a generic job description, or they send you something that is specific to a job they're advertising at the time?
Normally, they would send me the same advertisement that they're sending out. They're saying, this is what we're looking for, and then they give me the candidates' names. Now, there's a very large company out of Australia that owns like 4 different businesses, and it's a long story how they found out about me to begin with, so I won't go there. But he hired me for a 6-month trial period once a week. He was just going to give me the job description and give me the names. And he would give me no feedback. And after the first 3 weeks, he said, I'm not giving any of this stuff to you ahead of time. I like to look at it ahead of time to see all the patterns because I'm not time pressured. And he says, I'm not going to give it to you ahead of time. I want to give it to you once we're already on the phone. I want to make sure you're not looking in Google or what. And I thought, man, I'm teaching school and I'm doing this on the side. Like, who has time? But anyway, I said, whatever. And anyway, we did this for 4.5 months. And at the 4.5 month mark, he said to me, he gave me the job description. I said, here's your number 1, here's your number 2. And he said, this is really interesting. For 4.5 months now, my team has read the resumes, narrowed them down, interviewed the people, called all the references, and recommended a number 1 and number 2. And he says, for 4.5 months, in 15 to 20 minutes, you've given me the exact same number 1 and number 2. But this time, they're in reverse. Our number 1 and 2 is your number 2 and 1. Why? So I said, well, they're very close. You'd probably be pleased with either one. But this is what I saw that made this one my number 2. And he said, nobody on a reference call when we're calling would talk about that kind of a thing. And we probably wouldn't figure that out for 6 to 12 months. And he says, you've been so accurate, we're going to go with you instead of me.
Wow.
And so it doesn't take long once you learn the system. And the beauty of it, Nina, is, I've been a school teacher for so long, and I get kids to gain at least 2.5 years of math knowledge every year in math. And that's my slowest kid.
Well,
I figured out how to teach things in a fast method that makes sense. And in my book, you get the benefit of that, but in a class, you really get the benefit of that.
And we'll pick that up when we come back after the break. And you're listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in
Securing Our
Internet talk.
eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Life is full of misadventures, from car crashes to home fires to getting choked out on the mat. Yes, I said getting choked out because I'm Carlos Kramer, jiu-jitsu competitor, MMA and media personality, and mild-mannered insurance agent. You can follow my adventures on Kick-Ass Radio, and I can protect you from life's misadventures at Kramer Insurance. Home, auto, life, business, and workers' comp. We're at KramerINS.com, and I want you to join my world.
I've been bragging about Progressive Medical Center to you guys for years, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Agoli with us because, Dr. Agoli, a lot of people walk through your doors, and some of their biggest problems are they're just fatigued, they're tired all the time, and even though they're dieting and exercising, they cannot get the weight off. Why is that?
It's a combination of poor metabolism, inappropriate eating, but more importantly, it's due to a lack of education and really doing the right testing. A lot of our patients are metabolically compromised. What does that mean? Their metabolism is not functioning. The metabolism is responsible for all physical and chemical processes necessary to sustain life, and that includes energy. And without cellular energy, your body is not going to be a burning machine. Let's get back and teach our listeners to be a fat-burning machine.
It's been a lot easier to maintain my weight since Progressive Medical Center started treating me with all-natural supplements, learning proper nutrition, and that can be you today. No more frustrations about being tired or overweight. So why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today through ProgressiveMedicalCenter.com.
This is your life, live it well.
I've heard this is like one of the best pizza spots in town.
Yes, it is.
I'll do a slice of pepperoni, slice of vegetarian.
You got it.
And I will pay for all of that in 3 days.
In 3 days? What's that mean?
Well, wait, you accept credit cards. That money's not going to hit your account for 3 days anyway.
I need my money quicker.
At Chase, we hear you. With Express Funding, card payments are in your Chase account the next business day. Go to chase.com/expressfunding. Chase for business, so you can.
Compensated participation. All businesses are subject to credit approval. Not all clients are eligible for next business day funding, and additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Welcome back to the HR Insights Hour, presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
And this is Nina Woodard, your host, with my guest today, Sharὸn Lynn Wyeth. And Sharōn and I are talking about her very, very interesting baby, Neimology Science. And she has tested Neimology Science around the world and has a track record that supports the successful use of this science in helping employers identify the right candidates for the right jobs. So, Sharōn, you were telling us that you, in your math teaching experience, you were able to help students learn math more quickly with the techniques that you came up with, which is one of the things that led you into the whole Neimology Science.
Right. So what took me 15 years to figure out all the patterns to get it down, I can literally teach in 15 hours.
Exciting.
And so it doesn't take long. And an HR person could learn how to do it and do it for themselves.
And your book is available. It's called Know the Name, Know the Person. So can you kind of give us an example of what transpires in the process of identifying the person from the name? You want to use my name and try and see what you can tell about me from that?
I would love to. So I need to know if your last name that you're using is your married or your maiden. That's all I need.
So it's my married.
Okay. So you're very family oriented. We all get our lessons through health, relationships, or finances. All of our lessons come to us in one of those three packages. And you chose relationships, and you chose to major in family relationships. So the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, everything, it really comes through family, and they are your greatest teachers. They also may be the most difficult teachers at some time, but they're your greatest teachers. It also says in your name that you decided it was important to be liked and to be likable, so you worked really hard on being a likable person, but you're not going to change who you are and able to get somebody to like you. You naturally have a fabulous memory. You're very organized. You can always put your hands on anything right away. You're organized to the point that other people can also pick up your system and follow along. It's very important to you to be included, and therefore you also include other people around you. So you're going to be that team player. You wouldn't ever think of isolating somebody because you would not want to be isolated. In a job thing, you're going to be able to see the minutia and the details of jobs. So if you have an overall job, you're going to be saying, what are the details? What do we need to do? What are the parts that need to make this happen so that we're going to be able to complete this entire project and not leave out any of the minutiae? You don't like making the same mistake twice. You don't need any discipline from somebody else. You'll beat yourself up and you'll say, okay, I'm going to learn from that experience and I'm going to go forward. And I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I'll make brand new mistakes, but you're going to learn from each one. And therefore, the older you get, the more wise you get, and you're also able to apply a situation or knowledge that you've learned in one situation into a new situation. So that's some of what your name means. But you're also very good to others. You nurture other people. You expect loyalty in return. I mean, you've got a lot of good qualities and characteristics going in if you were the job applicant.
Well, thank you so very much. And so my profession for 35 years was human resource management. And then I transitioned to consulting and business leadership for some period of time. And the last 5 years I've been teaching and nurturing students in the classroom and really enjoying sharing the experience of human resource management with this younger generation who are going to be the managers of the future and who are going to be leading businesses of the future, and hopefully doing it with the right set of ethics and attention to the details that are important in a workplace. So I really appreciate what you said, and for anyone who's listening who knows me, so much of what you said really it is a part of who I am. So it's very interesting because Sharôn and I have never met, and she only has my name written in front of her, and so she was just using that as her source of information. Very, very interesting. What would be the best job for me if I were to land a new job right now?
That is not in HR because you're so people-oriented and you're so fair. So I would say a mediator in a courtroom.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm not looking, by the way, for faculty at San Marcos. I'm in the mix for that HR emphasis degree that's now a part of our business administration class. So I'm not leaving you guys for the courtroom. So if I were to employ these tactics as an HR professional, are there other applications besides the hiring process that this could be a benefit?
The answer is absolutely yes. Let me give you an experience that happened for a company that I was working for in San Diego. I grew up in Point Loma, so I just love San Diego and getting back there. So I was really happy when my very first company when I started this was in San Diego that hired me. And so one of the questions that they had is they had two employees that they really, really liked. Okay. But neither one could stand the other one. So each of them said, if you don't get rid of the other one, I'm quitting because I'm not going to work with them. And the HR person had worked with me before, and she said, what do? I want to keep both people. How do I make this work? So I looked at their names and I said, oh, this one is just absolutely detail-oriented and needs to stay so well informed. And this one, I bet all your clients love it when you send him out, but he doesn't like doing the paperwork. And she wants the paperwork and the documentation. She needs to know what's happening when he's going out there and he's not communicating it. And he's saying, hey, once a week, if I tell you, yeah, I did what you asked me to do, that ought to be good enough. And she's saying, no, I need it in case they call me tomorrow. And so what we worked out was, because they didn't talk well together, was that at the end of every day, he would take 15 minutes and he would literally send her a voicemail and say, this is who I talked to today. This is what we talked about. This is where we are on this project. And this is what we're planning on doing tomorrow. And so he literally gave a summary every day. That took care of her needs. And because that took care of her needs, she was no longer trying to micromanage him, which he couldn't stand. And just doing that simple little change, that was literally 5 years ago, they're both still working for the company today, and he still reports to her.
It sounds so simple, but having the background that I have in HR, that is not a simple solution, as simple as it sounds. So it was very ingenious to be able to try to identify the thing that could change the relationship as profoundly as just that little communication piece. And because it was all vocal, he probably didn't feel as much pressure for the paperwork either. So it made it very simple for him, so he wasn't tied to the desk and filling out big reports.
Correct. And then he could just do it once a week like he was used to. Now, I have an advantage because in my background, 11 of my years in education was in administration. And I got to be a high school principal. And then after that, I was promoted to central office. And even though I was the head of research and developmental programs, HR would constantly borrow me and send me out to go hire teachers in other areas. And so I've been through a lot of the training and got to hire a lot of people and then watch how that worked. And plus, as a principal, you're constantly working with people and with problems. So I think all of that folds into when I'm looking at solutions.
Well, this is definitely, your methodology here is definitely a shortcut in terms of identifying candidates. Are there other tips or things that interviewers do or don't do that they should be thinking about when they're even using your Neimology Science?
Yes, there's 6 different communication styles. Okay, so if you understand, and it's located in the first vowel of the first name, and so if you understand just the 6 communication styles, you'll capture that person that they'll want to work for you if there's a lot of companies competing for the same person, because you've talked with them in their style. And also, when you're looking at flow charts, like who's going to be working for whom, some companies have sent me their flow charts and literally simply said, here's how our flow chart works. Where are my problems? And I've been able to say, oh, I'm seeing a problem here or there or there. And, if you just rearranged a few people or who they're reporting to, you wouldn't have some problems because there's such a conflict in the names and how they communicate. So if you know that one half of the vowels, the A, the O, and the Y, they're all very mental people. Okay. So they want to get to the bottom line. They want to get to what's really important first. And after they've taken care of business, then they'll communicate and joke and see how each other's doing. But they'll take care of business first. On the other hand, the other vowels, the I, the E, and the U, they need to connect with people first. So, hey, how are you? How was your night last night? They're the ones that are talking, making sure everybody's okay. And then after they know everybody's okay, then they get down to business. So if you're putting a team together and you don't have a good balance of who's going to get to business first and who needs to connect first, then you're going to have conflict and you've just built it into your system. And so you also want to know that N's, the letter N, are very detailed oriented and they have great memories. And if the N is at the end of the name or there's 2 N's in the middle, those people are going to drive you nuts with all the minutia. But if you've got a job that takes that kind of minutia, like the computers and the detail and whatnot, You want somebody that's like that, but honesty, whether they're focused on work, can hold their focus, whether they're a hard worker, they're lazy, all of that shows up in a name.
So very, very interesting. Well, we just have a few more seconds left in this segment, and I definitely want to continue this conversation and look at, in our next segment, some of the other interesting elements and talk a little bit more about your book as well. So as we lead out this section, do you have one last thought you want people to walk away with?
Everybody can learn everybody else's communication style. It's very easy, and it will also improve your own personal relationships.
Perfect. We will be right back. You're listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What?, Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Welcome back to the HR Insights Hour presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
And this is your host, Nina Woodard, coming back with our great guest today, Sharὸn Lynn Wyeth. Sharōn, we've talked about the usefulness of neimology as a science and the way that you've proven its usefulness on a global basis. Do you see any differences culturally that are transparent with the different ways that people are named and the different influences, especially in some parts of the world, about how a name is selected?
Yes, it's very different around the world. For an example, in Turkey, the oldest male relative names the child. So it's not the parents. In Russia, the father's name is always the middle name of the child, and the male version is for the male, and there's a female version of the name that will be for the female. But the father's name is always the middle name. So a lot of different cultures have different ways of naming a child, or they have big ceremonies at different times. In the native Indians, they would give a name until somebody accomplished what that name stood for or the challenges in that name. And then they would have a big naming ceremony and they would give them a new name. So now you have new challenges. And around the world, it's very different. It's amazing living here in the United States because we always just assume that the parents named the child, but it's not the case around the world.
Do you find that has any impact on the usefulness of the Neimology Science?
No, it's whatever name comes out, that's the name. It's like the birth name. Whatever on that birth certificate is a blueprint for the person's life. And it not only says, here's our 7 challenges, that every name comes in with 7 challenges. And occasionally you'll have more, but I've never seen a name with less, and I have seen thousands of names. And then it'll say, here are your gifts that you can have to accomplish and to use to meet those challenges. And it as long as they're using our lettering system, it works around the world. Now, there were different times when I was being asked to speak in different countries that they would ask me a question, and bless their hearts, I would say, nobody's asked me that before. And I would write it down. I'd say, we're pausing, and I would write it down. And so I have a whole chapter in my book, Know the Name, Know the Person, that's called What If? And that's where I put all those questions that didn't fall naturally into a segment and said, like, what if they had a number instead of a name, like they were called by a number when they were in Germany, some of the older people? And what if you have 2 last names, or what if you have a tilde or a umlaut, and all of that is answered in that chapter because it was fascinating, what different names around the world and what we do with names.
Is there any impact on the different, in language, there are different alphabets and different pronunciations of letters. Do you basically use the alphabet as we know it here in the West, or does it make any difference if it's like the Greek alphabet or in Hindi, for example?
As long as they're using the Roman alphabet that we use, the system works. Now, there's a few tiny nuances, and that is like when 2 vowels go walking in America, the first one does the talking. But in the Germanic languages, when 2 vowels go walking, the second one does the talking. And so if I let you know in America what an IE stands for, if I'm reading a German name, I have to read what the EI stands for. I need to reverse that and able to keep the accuracy. But I lived in Japan for 2 years, and I lived in China for 1 year, and attempted to figure out the correlations between the kanji and the hanji and our Roman numerals. And I just thought you have to know their languages better to really make a good correlation. So what I have found is, since they also are given an English name, that the main qualities hold, but not the subtleties.
I see.
But it's not affected by language if they're using our alphabet system, regardless of whether it's Italian or German or whatever. It works.
It works. One of the things that HR is charged with doing, besides developing people and finding the right people for the right place, is ensuring that an organization stays compliant, and that we don't have any discriminatory practices or anything that would lead to even unconscious discrimination in the way that we hire and select employees. Is there any danger with utilizing this system that there could be an issue? What do you advise HR people on the compliance side of this discussion?
That is such a wonderful question because it has not been tested in the courts. And just like some companies are now using handwriting analysis because that's widely accepted to help them find a candidate, this is another tool that falls underneath the same thing. And so if it's not your sole reason that you're hiring or firing, and you're using other input also, that this is one more tool, I think you're safe on it. According to the lawyers I've talked with, it's only if you would use this as your only tool then that's not a safe practice.
And that makes perfect sense, and especially since you do also have some science, a lot of science behind this as well. So can you tell us maybe the most interesting story of finding the right candidate that you've had experience doing?
Oh, let me think for a second. It's kind of fun sometimes when they give me names. There was this one, and again, it was for the company in San Diego. I love this company because they were my experimental company for the first 2 years when I started doing this and said, I want to see if it will work with HR. And they gave me these list of names, and they said, we think these guys are going to be perfect based on their resumes and what we've heard about them and everything. And I think they're just going to be perfect. And I looked at this one and I said, you have a family type atmosphere in your company. You only have 50 people employed, even though you're constantly growing, but everybody relates to each other like family. And I said, and I think that's important to keep your atmosphere. And I think this guy's got all the letters in the right places and you would love his skills, but he's not a team player. And I think he'd be very disruptive. So I'm going to suggest some questions for you to ask in your interview. Now, when you're interviewing, you've got to ask the same questions to everybody to be fair, but make sure these questions are in there because it'll come out then whether he's going to be your team player or he's just out for himself. And so when she got through with interviewing the candidates, she called me and she said, I'm so glad for those questions because you're right, he's not a team player. And then there was another one, so they didn't end up hiring him. There was another one that I looked at the name and I said, God bless his soul. I said, he can't get his mind off the physical and what he likes to do. He can't focus on the work. And I said, and I don't know if that's important to you, but he's going to daydream a lot. He's going to shift a lot. Now, they're a tech company, so they can't have, they don't have direct supervision. You're in front of programming that computer and creating programs all the time. You can't have somebody whose mind drifts,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And I said, he just drifts, and it's nothing good or bad about it. It's just where his mind's going to take him. And so you want to be very much aware of that because you're going to be paying for some of that daydreaming if you hire him.
Well, yeah. So did you provide questions again for them to be able to ask to identify that?
I do. Because I think HR people always, to me, when I got trained, we always had to ask the same questions of everybody for the same job. And so we just put them into our bank of questions. And I do come up with questions for each individual company and say, I think these questions will bring that out for you. Because a lot of times you have your standard questions and you just get used to that. And then you get challenged, like, how am I going to find that out?
Yeah. And sometimes you also need to make sure that the feedback they're giving you is true and correct. So you've got to follow up with some other questions sometimes too. So that's the combination of the science that you've created plus good interviewing and behavioral and situational interview questions, right?
And again, I think all of it comes into play. I mean, I just feel so very fortunate because just think about it. If we could always get the right person in the right job, they're happy. You're going to get better performance. The company's happy. That employee is going to stay longer. So you have, stability in your company. And it's a win-win. And how many people really are thrilled to go to work every day or really excited about their jobs? I mean, so many people call me and say, what else could I be doing? I need something else.
Yeah.
And I just look at it and I think to find the right job for the right person, oh my gosh, what a wonderful world this would be if we all loved what we were doing all day long.
And it would make such a huge difference to the nation's GDP.
Yes.
It could really have a profound impact on our nation's GDP. There's a little bit of me that is I'm trying to think of a way to approach this without getting too into the current political scenario. But is there a way to use this kind of thing to identify the right person to be a candidate for, let's say, the president or a governor or a senator or
yes. And in fact, I've worked with some CEOs on how do you replace yourself? What letters are you looking for? What names are you looking for? There was one company that was so funny because one of the people, when I went back to help them again, One of the people looked at me and said, "We do not want another Brandon. You have hired us 5 Brandons." And I said, "But it's such a good name as long as nothing's in the last name that disrupts it for exactly what you're doing." And she goes, "Yeah, but we say Brandon," and 5 people go, "Yes." I have often joked that Trump needs to get this system in his system and get somebody up there to know it or to hire me so he doesn't have such a revolving door. Let's get the right person in there the right time.
Jobs. Yeah, he needs some help for ensuring he gets the right person in the right spot for sure.
But it's really interesting because you can look at somebody's name. Like, we all know Donald Trump has a temper, but it sits there in a combination of his name. There's 4 different ways temper shows up. And it says why the temper shows up. So in Donald Trump's name, it says temper shows up when systems don't work. The system has to work. When it doesn't, he gets mad.
That's a good insight. And you are listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk, and we'll be right back after our short break.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Too much to do? Not enough time to get it done? Call on the experts at Another 8 Hours for your business support needs. By partnering with Another 8 Hours, we allow you to focus on the more important matters, like being in front of your clients, doing what you do best, rather than being stuck at a desk poring over paperwork, rummaging through emails, returning phone calls, and struggling to get everything done by yourself. Meanwhile, your family and social life are going down the drain. Go to another8hours.com or call 8 more hours. That's 866-734-6877.
Welcome back to the HR Insights Hour presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
And this is Nina Woodard, your host, and we are today having a delightful conversation with Sharὸn Wyeth. Sharōn has been sharing with us information about her own created science, Neimology as a science, which is the understanding the what your name is, how that drives who you are, and how you will behave. Her book, Know the Name, Know the Person, We've talked about that at some length. It was a book that Sharὸn wrote in 2006. Did I remember that correctly?
You did.
And which is still available, and it's available, I believe, on your website. We want to make sure we allow people to understand how to reach out to you. And before we conclude this, I can't believe that our time is almost up, but before we conclude our last segment, we'll really spend some time letting people know how to reach you and how to find you. We've talked about, and it's fascinating to me, that this is a tool that complements other things that you would do in the HR department in your hiring process. We've identified that it can either prove hires that you've made in the past, so you can go out to somebody who does your job really well and match them up to that job description, and you can say this is why they're really good at that job, and this is the name, as you shared the story of the 5 Brandons. This is the name of the person or the combination of letters that will create success in this job. We've talked about the fact that it's based on science. We talked about the fact that it shouldn't be used as a solo tool to be able to be completely devoid of any kind of discrimination as an outcome or potential for that, but that it seems very fair and follow along based on as it follows along in the hiring process based on all of the research and the many companies that you've worked with. If I were an HR person and I was considering implementing this, is there something I need to do before I start out with this, or just move into using it?
You just move into using it, and it's really easy. And there's one more way that HR companies have called me on a regular basis, and that is somebody's coming up for a review of their job. Now, think about it. I haven't been there. I haven't watched them, what they're doing, but I look at the name and I say, where does this name say that they're learning? And that they could use improvement for that particular job. And literally I can make suggestions on this is where you can say this person needs to improve in their job just by looking at the name. So if a review's coming up and the supervisor's struggling, what do I say? They call me and I let them know this is what you can say. And sometimes it's how can I say this? Because I can look at a name and go, oh, like the last one I was just asked for 2 days ago. I looked at it and I said, now this person's working hard and they think they're doing everything perfectly. So the minute you say something's wrong, you've already got a fight on your hands because they think they're perfect. So you have to make suggestions and come with facts and say, when this happened, this is how you handled it. And there's other options to look at. We'd just like you to start looking at different options. So in other words, you're not making them wrong, but you want to expand their way of dealing with something. And if somebody's working really hard and they're very good at their job, but they think they're perfect, none of us are, it's very hard not to step on their toes. So I literally will write out, this is how you say this, this is how you say this. So this person, you won't have an argument and they are able to hear you.
So again, it has a lot to do with your own personal communication style too. Do you select clients based on their name?
I have not selected clients except for one time. I didn't want to work with people. One person that was recommended to use my services because I just looked at their name and I just thought this is not a nice person and I don't want to have to work with them. So only once have I turned somebody down. However, when I'm teaching the class and how to do this, if they have in their name that they would want to misuse this knowledge to hurt people, I won't teach it to them. I won't let them in the class.
That's your own ethical and value set that comes to the forefront, which is really important. It's any other kind of communication skill, if you use it in a manipulative fashion or whatever, you really do more harm than good. So it's not about manipulating, it's about leveraging strengths, right?
Well, it's about putting knowledge in the hands of the right people. They're going to use it to the betterment of their companies and the betterment of their own lives versus putting it in the hands of people that would use it to hurt others.
Do you think it's really important in an organization for HR to make sure that the senior executives understand the utilization of Neimology?
I want to say yes, because so far, everyone who's hired me has either been the owner of the company or related to the owner of the company. And that's how I've gotten in so far. what I'm saying with that is those are the people that have found me. Okay, it's not that I knew them ahead of time, but those are the people that have found me, and they were right at the top of their organizations. And then they would literally say, we're going to work with her, we're going to test her first, and then they've invited me in to work with the rest of management. Like I go and give keynote speeches sometimes to help companies do that. I had this one company hire me overseas that I love because I got to go travel, and I love traveling when they hire me, is that they had me on a schedule for 5 days where this lady, bless her heart, the receptionist person was responsible for me staying on time. And she would take me from one group of people to another group of people. And she said, you have an hour here. You have 20 minutes here. You have 2 hours here. You have 45 minutes here. You know, she'd let me know as she sat me down. And then they would look at me and they'd say, okay, tell us all something about ourselves that you shouldn't know and that wouldn't be well known. You know, and since I hadn't met any of them before, it was like, okay. And so I'd do that very, very briefly so they could all say, okay, she's seeing something, you know, she's picking out something. And then they'd say what the problem was. Like the two of us, the one that was like a half an hour, and there was 2 ladies there, and they said, we used to trust each other, but then something happened and we don't trust each other, and we've not trusted each other now for 4 months, and both of our, you know, divisions are suffering because they're not working together anymore. And what do we need to do to reestablish trust? And then to be able to work that out with them, and at the end, before the half an hour was up, to say, okay, can you both agree to this? Does that feel comfortable for you? And both of them said yes, and we think if we both do this, then we can reestablish trust. And so it was so much fun because I guess being a math major, you're always solving problems. And I used to always joke that I really got my PS degree instead of my BS degree because that's for problem solving. But I got to do that for 5 days from group to group. And I think that is the most fun thing to be able to settle, because I really believe that any 2 people can figure out a way to get along if they just know the other person in a way and stop taking things personal. And when you can read a name, you say, well, of course that person does it that way. Look, it's right there. And then it's so much easier not to judge and not to take something personal.
Is there a belief with Neimology, too, that even if my name says this one thing about me, that it may not drive completely the way I behave? Is there?
Okay, so Nina, I love this question. In every combination, every letter, there is a challenge side and a gift side, like 2 sides of a coin. So let's take an example like an ST. An ST, if you're doing the challenge side, stands for stubborn. So Stacy, Stephanie, Stevens, even the ST's in the middle of the name or the end of the name, it doesn't matter where it lies. It means that if you're taking the challenge side, this person can be really stubborn. But if you're taking the gifted side, it means this person is persistent and they don't give up. Mm-hmm. So it's the individual free will choice. Which side are they taking?
So it's like other tools for being able to identify personality. There's a plus and a minus, and every time you make a choice, and your shortcut methodology actually helps people identify more quickly how to make that positive choice or to allow the negative to overrule.
Well, then they recognize the negative. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting in my way again.
Yeah.
Or the letter D. Okay, the letter D has clutter attached to it. But then we go through why the clutter is needed. And more people whose names I've done, when I go through why the clutter is needed and what they're doing because of the clutter, they don't need as much clutter. And I tell them it's okay to have clutter. You know,
Sharôn, I am so sorry to do this, but we've reached the end of our time, and I will make sure that we get your website and the way to connect with you up on the web with this broadcast. You're listening to WSRadio.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO. Education, industry experts, back to the basics. Is your company using the Internet of Things to its fullest potential? Enlist the Peggy Smedley Institute and its team of experts to create a customized plan for how to apply the IoT to your specific needs. Learn everything you need to know to achieve tangible business outcomes in today's digital economy. Contact us at 630-933-0844. That's 630-933-0844 or visit learnitit.com.
I have some good news for a change. With the stressful times upon us, having a regular glass of wine has proved in many studies to reduce stress. Want some more stress-relieving tips? VinVillage.com is an exciting new social organization connecting wine lovers around the country with an exclusive local and online wine lifestyle experience. Vin Village members can meet others online and in person, attend wine dinners and tastings, participate in forums, blogs, and wikis, purchase limited and exclusive wines, even create your own wine. You heard me. Create your own wine. And best yet, membership is free. So reduce some of the stress and have some fun. Join now and connect with thousands of other like-minded wine lovers. To learn more, go to vinvillage.com. That's www.vinvillage.com. Vin Village is where wine lovers connect.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, vinvillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.